Hey everyone, and welcome to the Retro Channel, and welcome to Septandy, a month where a group of YouTubers like myself come together to celebrate all things Tandy. This year for Septandy 2020, we've got Mr. Lurch's Things, Josh Malone, myself of course, Adrian's Digital Basement, there's Tech Tangents, Retrospector, Dave Just Dave, LGR, we do have Yan Beta.
And what's with the potato?
The answer to that can be found on Mindflare Retro's channel. This month I'm going to be looking at a pair of CoCo1s. Now you'll notice that they do look quite different even though they are the same computer. So the Radioshack, or Tandy TRS-80 Color Computer, or CoCo as it's affectionately known, originally came out in 1980, and this is probably what you would have got if you had have bought it back in 1980. It came with either 4 or 16K of RAM, but eventually got upgraded to either 32 or 64K. And it was aimed squarely at the home market, so the only output in terms of video and audio is RF output, which you'd have to tune into your analog TV. And anyone who's dealt with RF modulated outputs in the modern day, especially with LCD displays and that kind of thing, will know it looks horrible. So we're going to attempt to deal with that today. As for this one, this is not stock. It's clearly been quite used and well loved, well used, let's say. Somebody has gone ahead and upgraded the keyboard. The original keyboard is these terrible little chiclet keys. This one has a nice full travel keyboard, so this is definitely not something that would have been available with the color computer. This is an aftermarket modification. Also on this thing is this cable with a couple of RCA jacks hanging out the back, and if we look underneath, there's even some switches under here. So quite a lot has been done to this machine. I haven't actually opened it up. I'm going to save that for the next video where we're all going to take a look at what is actually going on inside. So that'll be a bit of a surprise, but the reason I want to start with this is just so we can get a little bit familiar with the internals, and hopefully that'll answer some questions once we come to opening this one. So we'll put this aside for now. The plan is to upgrade the RF output to something a bit more usable in today's modern world, and also something a bit cleaner and crisper. And originally I did start out with this little guy here, which is just a simple composite output that taps off the 1372 video mixer chip, and let's just say I was less than impressed with the results. And I actually went ahead and filmed a whole video installing this and making it all pretty in the case, and yeah, it was a big sort of, almost a big waste of time, and it's currently falling apart. So anyway, this is what we're going to be installing. This is an S-Video output. We also have a TRRS output. So this is going to become our modified video output, which will be capable of outputting S-Video along with composite video, or composite video as some prefer to say, and also mono audio, because believe it or not, something that came out in 1980 does not have stereo sound. But this will make it a lot easier to hook up to a modern TV and give us a cleaner output. So enough about that, let's get it in. Right, so I've already gone ahead and removed the screws, so we can just take the top cover off and, whoops, left that there. This is what we have. Down the back here is our RF modulator. This is fed by the MC1372 video mixer, which in turn is fed by the MC6847 video display generator, or VDG. So we're going to get rid of this and attempt to install this. We're also going to remove this little switch at the back here, because what I want to do is modify this in a way that we don't have to do any destructive work to the case. So ideally, this will fit neatly just back here somewhere. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is pull this crap out. So I'll remove the keyboard, and just like the case, I've already removed all the screws. So this will just lift out. There is also a RF shield that's normally attached to the bottom of the board, which is this big shiny thing, which is probably wreaking havoc on the camera. Sorry about that. It has a whole bunch of little clips that need to be pushed in from the top and then pushed down through the board. So that's pretty boring to watch and even more tedious to actually do. So I've already taken care of that, so we can just pull this straight out. The only thing I need to do is disconnect our power supply, which sits over here. These have a standard power plug that just plugs straight into the mains, and all of the power regulation is done internally, hence these big filter caps and the transformer down here. So we'll remove this. I've just put a few little marks for myself to remind me where each wire goes back, because all these wires are all brown. Right, so we just need to desolder the mounting points for the RF modulator and this switch, and also these cables going into the RF modulator. Pretty straightforward. These take a lot of heat, so I'm going to use the soldering iron together with the desoldering gun just to get that heat flowing through these joints. Out. Right, now these are out of the way, we have just the right amount of room for our replacement. Nice. Now I've added some little pin headers which will act as standoffs that'll go through the existing holes for the original RF modulator. There's quite a bit of crap around there that I should have cleaned up. I'll just wick that off. That'll do it. And I'm just going to add some insulating tape over these parts just so we don't short anything on the new board. Poke a hole back through here, because we're going to need that. And our new board goes in. Now, these points are all ground, except for this one. It's not ground on the top side of the board, only on the underside of the board, which threw me off when I first put this in, because I built the board up thinking I'd have ground along this row here through this pin header, and something wasn't working, and I realized that there was no ground connection, which was a bit frustrating. So yeah, if you're doing this, make sure you find a suitable ground. Oh yes, and I put double-sided tape underneath to hold this in, so I probably should remove the backing for that. Okay, let's stick it down. And that is how it's going to sit. Mind the dodgy insulating tape. So let's solder it in. Ground, as I said, is already going to come through these pin headers, so that's already taken care of, and that's probably the first thing I should actually solder down so the board doesn't try and escape. Yeah, it is just a piece of Vero board or perf board. This is something that I designed myself, and it's not perfect, but I spent many hours testing it, swapping things in and out, adding in high pass filters, AC coupling things, biasing things, everything to try and get the best possible quality out of this thing. And yeah, eventually I narrowed down all the components. I'm not great with circuit design. That's not my strong suit. There's probably something about this circuit that somebody who is good with circuit design will probably look at and go, oh, that's terrible, why did you do that? But this is what has worked for me. And hopefully if anyone else ends up building this same circuit, please let me know if it works for you as well. You will notice that there is a bodge wire. This is from factory. Actually, I've replaced that bodge wire, but this was here from factory, which may be just common to this particular board revision. I'm not sure. But yeah, everything that we're going to tap from is coming from the MC1372 chip, which is looking pretty rough because I have soldered and desoldered many leads going to it. I actually tried to pull the Luma from the 6847 chip on pin 28, but it's actually slightly different from what I'm getting from the 1372. So everything is going to come from the 1372, except for the audio, which is going to come from pin 3 of the original RF modulator. And yeah, not too much componentry required to make that usable. And now the soldering iron is warmed up, and yes, that's what I was waiting for, and that's why I was blabbering on so much. We can mount this board properly. Right, so a whole lot of solder there. Obviously, we're plugging things in and out of this, so we don't want it to be able to move at all. Let's hook up these little wires. And I'll just add a tiny bit of solder to these pins here. So pin 8 is where we're going to pull our chroma signal from, which is going to be this yellow wire. And I probably should just snip that down a tiny bit. secure. Pin 9 is where we're pulling our loomer from. So I've got to try and connect this without disturbing the other bodge wire and without accidentally shorting it to the chroma. There we go, nice and messy. Audio, as I said, will come from pin 3 of the original RF modulator. And we can solder that from this side. And finally, power. You can pull it from, I think it's pin 10 of the 1372 chip. Double check that because it might not be pin 10. But I'm actually going to pull it from this little tiny capacitor next to the board here, because it also has 5 volts sitting on one of its legs. So that's where I'm going to get my 5 volts from. Just so I'm not having to solder too much to the 1372. All right, everything's connected, nice and secure. Let's put it back in the case and see if all this stuff lines up. All right, so here we go. The bottom case is back on and we are just about ready to go. So we've got our S-Video, obviously, which is going to plug straight in here. And of course, the 3.5mm TRRS jack is going to provide dual mono audio along with our composite video. So yeah, all the output options are here, and it is all done hopefully without having to modify the case, but there's one way to find out. I think it just fits. I can see it might be pushing slightly on this plug, but yeah, I think we can work around that. Pretty damn good, I'd say, for something that only had RF output, and now we've got multiple options all around the place. So let's hook it up and give it a test. Oh, and I should also mention the reason this little trim pot is here is because I had some issues with when it switched to P mode 4, which is the 2-color mode on the Tandy. Some devices would lose sync if there was too much color intensity. So I had to put that in there just to keep everything happy. So you may need to adjust that if you end up building this circuit. Yeah, I'll put a link to the schematic in the description below. But of course, there could be some improvements that can be made here. Like I said, I'm not that great with circuit design, so I'm sure somebody else has a better idea. But so far, this works for me. All right, so let's have a look at some comparison shots. Obviously on the left, we've got our original RF output, and then the old composite video output, the new composite video output, which is being mixed by this board. And then on the right, we've got the S-Video. Now, you can make up your mind as to which one you prefer. We'll say this was all filmed off an LCD TV. I don't have a capture device that can capture RF, so it was a case of just filming everything off the same display and then trying to sort of line it all up in post. And the other thing you'll probably notice is the ugly PAL artifact colors. In NTSC land, those sort of green and lavender colors end up forming reds and blues, that kind of thing. But in PAL land, that trick doesn't really come across that well. So this is probably better aimed at PAL machines, because at least you'll get that crisp black and white output. Whereas NTSC machines, you'll probably lose that artifact color. I mean, you'll get the crisp black and white output. So It's up to you which you prefer there. Yeah, I'll take the crisp black and white over the ugly PAL color artifact any day. All right, and here we are. This is it. I do have it hooked up to that LCD that I mentioned before. I think it's 42 or 46 inches. And also through the FrameMeister, so the image is quite crisp. I mean, obviously 40 years ago in 1980 when these came out, I don't think they were ever expecting somebody to be using it. In 2020, hooked up to a flat panel screen. I mean, these were designed for the home computer market using an RF output, so people had 12 or 15 inch CRTs and possibly color, probably not for a lot of people. So yeah, this is probably definitely overkill for this kind of thing, but that's what we like to do. We break out our old machines and see how much we can push them to the limits, I guess. I do have the CoCo SDC plugged in, so it's basically a SD card reader that emulates, a disk drive or hard drive plugged into the expansion port. Mr. Lurch did do a video, did explain these in his video recently on the CoCo 3. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out his recent video. But apart from that, the only thing left for me to do is play some games. And be sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already, and that notification bell so you get notified when the other CoCo comes up. There's some interesting things going on there, so that'll be interesting to look at. But yeah, until then, check out the other channels, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. Yeah, that's 1982. I suck. Planned that. Smooth. And for today, it's I am doing well here. And for today, we're just going to focus on this looking